going to tackle some 6th grade math for May 11th. So I'm going to put May 11th math and then my name. I'm going to do the workbook in the form of notes. I do have the workbook, and you can just do it in the workbook and take pictures, but I think you learn more when you take notes. So I'm going to do mine in the form of notes, and then you can just kind of match it to your workbook. Alright, so we're trying to find out the definitions of credit history, credit report, lender, and borrower. And then we're going to be able to match the positive credit history and negative credit history with the things there that they have. So I'm going to start with credit history. And that's just a record of financial performance. Okay, and then I'm going to do credit report. And that's a summary of financial history. We're going to do lender. Someone who loans money. And we're going to do borrower. Someone who borrows money. Okay, now I'm going to make a little graph or a little chart. I'm going to put positive credit history or good. I'm going to put good credit history and negative credit history or bad. So we're going to look at some things that can be good or bad to your credit. And we're going to put them in this little chart. Alright, so you pay your bills on time. Obviously that's good, right? Pay bills on time. Okay? You borrow money that you can repay. That's good. Borrow money you can repay. Okay? 3, acquire some debt, such as a loan. That's okay, too. Acquire some debt, such as a loan. You want to have some, or you don't get any kind of credit history. So like a car loan or house loan, those are good things. Okay, 4, borrow more than you can repay. Negative. Borrow more than you can repay. Okay, and then 5, make late payments that will be reported to a credit reporting agency. Obviously, that is bad. Make late payments. I'm just going to do make late payments. Okay, so we just did page 889 as notes. Of course, you don't have to do it as notes. You could just match those up in your workbook and show that to your teacher. All right, we're moving on to page, I gotta make sure I'm not doing too much or too little here. Hold on. We're gonna do 889, 890. There's an example on page 890. Okay, you can do the example on 890. We're gonna do 891. Okay, so I'm gonna do page 891, but I'm gonna do it on here again because I only have one workbook and I don't want to write on the pages. So I'm gonna do the odd number problems with you, and you could do the evens. So number one, identify the two borrowers most likely to be offered a loan if the decision was solely based on their credit scores. Okay, so if we're looking at just their credit scores, the higher the number, the better. If we look over here, the graphic that they give us is just this first little graphic where we've got A. Bailey and M. Caprete credit score. Oh, and we have J. Moore and H. Bixler. So our best is H. Bixler and M. Caprete. So that's what we're going to put on our answers. That's pretty easy. Number one, it's going to be H. Bixler and M. Caprete, or however you say that. Okay, number three. Okay, they have another table at the bottom of the right-hand side. The table shows some of the actions taken by three different borrowers. Explain the effect of these actions on the credit scores for each borrower. How long will any negative credit actions be reflected in the credit report? Okay, so M. Lombardo made all of her student loan payments on time, so she's doing good. She'll have positive credit history. Okay. F. Johnson borrowed more than he could repay, so F. Johnson will have negative for 7 years. And R. Garrett made 6 late car payments in 1 year. He probably is not driving that car anymore. He's going to have negative credit history for 7 years. Okay. Number 5, explain the value of credit reports to borrowers and to lenders. So 5 for the borrower shows lender how responsible you can be. And then for the lender, shows if they're going to get paid. Okay, they're not going to want to loan money to somebody that never pays their bills, because then they're not going to get their money, right? Alright, so that was 891. Now we're just going to go to the true and false here. And we can look at our notes to help us. Okay? Alright. My credit history does affect my chances for renting my first apartment. Is that true or false? And you can also watch the video. Some very few apartment complexes don't check your credit. 99.9% will check your credit, so it's true. And what they'll do, if let's say you have less than perfect credit or you have a bad rental history, they're either not going to let you rent, or they're going to charge you like a huge deposit. So let's say your rent is $900 and you have really bad credit, they're going to charge you probably $1,800 deposit plus the $900 to protect them. If you have good credit, they may not charge you a deposit at all. So that's just things to keep in mind. Routinely paying my bills late will not affect my credit history. That is false. And it'll keep, every time you're late, you're going to get, your credit's going to go down even more. It's going to keep going down and down and down until you pay all those up to date. The more credit cards I get, the higher my credit score will be. This is a true and a false. Okay, you can have too much credit even if you're paying your bills on time, or you can have too little credit. So you got to find a good balance. So you start with maybe one credit card and you pay it every month and you see how that goes. But you don't want to get too much, and you don't want to get too much too soon. If you get like 5 or 6 cards in a month, it's going to look bad on your credit, even if you're paying them. It's weird how it works, but it works that way. To build a positive credit history, I should pay cash for all purchases. That is actually false. I like that theory, and I kind of do that in my real life. I like to make sure that I have the money for everything, but it actually can hurt your credit. I actually had a friend who paid cash for everything. I mean, even bought cars cash, but they had really low credit because they didn't have any kind of history. So they were trying to buy a house, and it was kind of hard for them, and even though they had a big down payment, because they had to kind of prove that they were credit worthy. They had money in the bank, so that helped, but so it is actually a false. You need to have some credit to get credit. When I apply to borrow money for a car, the loan company will look at my credit history. 100% yes. And you'll have to explain anything that's negative on your report, or they're not going to give you a car. Having a small amount of debt is good for my credit history. That is true. Okay. I'm not going to circle anymore because I realize I'm giving you all the answers. So I'm just going to kind of talk about everything and let you finish. All right, next, my landlord cannot report my failure to pay rent to a credit reporting agency. That is completely false. They will. They can and they will, especially if you're in a nice apartment or a nice rental. Even a regular apartment like here in Kingsville, they'll report it, because that's going to keep you from renting somewhere else and doing the same thing to somebody else. If my credit card allows me to charge up to $3,000, I should charge the maximum amount to build my credit history. False. I should charge a little bit, pay it off, or pay most of it off, and try not to have a lot of revolving debt. That means not have things that are going to continue month after month. A bad credit report can affect my chances for getting a job. It can. I mean, I do know that they do check credit, but they're not really looking for. It depends. Like, if you're going to go for a bank job, that may very well determine whether you get a job or not. For a regular job, they're really looking for things like fraud, even bankruptcy, kind of. If you're going in the military, that's very frowned upon. You can actually get in trouble for that. So it's better to have good credit, especially when you're looking for a job. But it's kind of 50-50 on that one. Late payments are retained on credit reports for 1 year. Oh, they're retained for longer than 1 year. They're retained for 7 years. Paying the entire balance on my credit card each month creates good credit history. True and false. Yes, it's probably best in the real world to pay it off every time, but in the credit world, they do want you to have a little bit of credit in there. So, you know, that's kind of a personal decision, and you can kind of watch your score and see how it affects it. Like, 1 month, pay it off, check your credit report in a couple months and see how it affected it. Next month, leave like $10 on there and see if it made any difference. It may not make a big difference. It may make a little bit of a difference. All right, we're going to go to the back. All right, so what is the credit score? So we have that here. That's like your credit history or credit score. What are the lowest and highest possible credit scores? That you're going to have to watch the video for that one. The higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate on a loan. Mr. Johnson and Miss Flores each want to buy a car that costs $12,000. Each wants a 4-year loan. Mr. Johnson has poor credit, a credit score of 645. And his payments will be about $290 a month. Miss Flores has very good credit, a credit score of 795, and her payments will be $225 a month. How much will Mr. Johnson repay the lender over 4 years? So you're going to have to take the Mr. Johnson, his payments are $290 a month. And you're going to have to take that times, how much is 4 years? So we're going to have to do 12 times 4, 12 months in a year, 4 years. So that's 48. So you're going to do 290 times 48. You're going to want to do your multiples box for 48. So you're going to want to do 48. You're going to add, you're going to keep adding until you fill up your multiples box, and that'll help you. Oh, well, you can do it that, no, yeah, that worked. No, not really. Sorry, I'm dividing my brain. I'll help you get started. You got 8 times 0, which is 0. 8 times 9, and then 8 times 2 are going to go here. You're going to have your placeholder. 4 times 0 is 0, and then 4 times 9 and 4 times 2, and then you're going to add. Now, how much will Ms. Flores repay the lender? So hers are even less. So hers is 225 times 48. Okay? C, how much more will a 4-year, $12,000 loan cost Mr. Johnson than it will cost Ms. Flores? So you're going to take Mr. Johnson and you're going to subtract Mrs. Flores, and that'll give you that answer. So I'm just going to put that as notes. Mr. J minus Mr. or Mrs. Flores. Why do you think a person who has better credit pays less per month? And we kind of already talked about that in the on the true false. Why do you think a lender is going to be more lenient or give a better rate to somebody who can pay their bills? Why is a person's credit score important to a bank or financial group that loans money to people? We talked about that again on the previous page. If you need to, you can just go back and kind of copy. How can a person raise their credit score? Watch the video. There's lots of ways that, you know, paying off your bills is probably the best. Having a good loan, having things like that. All right, circle the 2 borrowers from the table below most likely to be offered a loan if the decision was solely based on their credit scores. So you're looking for the best credit score right here. Boom and boom. Put a square around the 2 names that are least likely. Boom, boom. Even though those are pretty good scores anyway. Alright, and that's going to conclude math for May 11th for 6th grade.